Good day, everyone. I'm Michelle B. Cultura reporting about assessment of students' learning. What is assessment? Assessment is a systematic process of gathering, interpreting, and acting upon data related to student learning and experience for the purpose of developing a deep understanding of what students know, understand, and can do with their knowledge as a result of their educational experience. The process culminates when assessment results are used to improve subsequent learning. Assessment is an ongoing process aimed to understand and improving student learning. Assessment is a multiple methods. It is a criteria and standard. Assessment is an evidence. Assessment is students know, can do, and understand, and it more than just collecting data. So there are sequence in preparing instructionally relevant assessment. First, instruction. Second, learning task. And third is assessment. So instruction indicates the learning outcomes to be attained by the students, while learning task specifies the particular set of learning tasks to be assessed. And assessment provides a procedure designed to measure a representative sample of the instructional relevant learning task. Their close agreement. What is the assessment process? So the assessment process is aims, assessment, action, and adjustment. So there are importance of assessment. One, to find out what the students know, the knowledge. Then two, to find out what the students can do and how well they can do it, skill or performance. To find out how students go about the task of doing their works, the process. Then, to find out how students feel about their work, the motivation or effort. What is student assessment for? So a student assessment help us design and modify programs to better promote learning and student success, to provide common definitions and benchmarks for student abilities that will enable you to act more coherently and effectively to promote student learning. Next, what is students assessment for? To provide feedback, guidance, and monitoring to students so as to help them better plan and execute their educational programs. Then, to provide improved feedback about student learning to support faculty in their work. So, there are functions of assessment. 1. Diagnostic. 2. Formative. And 3. The summative. So, diagnostic is tell us what the student needs to learn. Formative tell us how well the student is doing as work progresses. Then summative tell us how well the student did at the end of the unit or task. What can be assessed? It can be assessed through student learning characteristics, ability differences, learning styles, student motivational characteristics, interest, self-efficacy, goal orientation, learning, content knowledge, ability to apply content knowledge, skills, disposition and attitudes, and performance. So how would we assess? We assess through true-false item, multiple choice, completion, short answer, essay, practical exam, papers and reports, projects, questionnaires, inventories, checklist, peer rating, self-rating, journal, portfolio, observations, discussions, and interview. So there are criteria in choosing an assessment method. So in criteria and assessment method, it should be reliable and it should be valid. Next, it should be simple to operate and shall not be too costly. It should be seen by students and society in general, and it should be benefit all students. Who should be involved in assessment? So in assessment, it should be involved by the teacher, student, the student's peer, and administrator, and of course, parents. So what should we do with the information with our assessment? So use it to improve the focus of our teaching, diagnosis. Use it to focus student attention of strengths and weaknesses, the motivation, and use it to improve program planning, program assessment. Use it for reporting to parents. So in classroom assessment, it should be paper and pencil assessment. In classroom assessment, it should be through paper and pencil assessment. So ask a student to respond in writing to questions of or problems item level, assessing lower or higher skills. The knowledge versus application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. The authentic task example, multiple choice, matching type, the recognition short answer, essay, or recall. And paper and pencil assessment, the strength, can cover a lot of material reasonably well. Fair, effective in assessing declarative knowledge or content. Easier to construct and administered than performance assessment. And weaknesses, require forethought and skill, less effective in assessing procedural knowledge and creative thinking. Construction of good higher level recognition items is difficult. Recall items that do a good job or assessing higher level thinking. The easy questions are difficult to score. So in performance assessments, number 2, the performance assessment. Assessments that elicits and evaluates actual student performance. So there are types of performances. The products are drawing, science experiments, term papers, poems, solution to authentic problems. Then in behavior, it should be time trial for running a mile, reciting a poem, acting tryouts, and dancing. So in performance assessment, the strengths are effective for assessing higher level thinking and authentic learning. Effective for assessing skill and procedural learning, and interest and motivating students. So weaknesses, it emphasizes depth at the expense of breadth, difficult to construct, time-consuming to administer, and hard to score fairly. So how can we assess students' learning? Through traditional assessment. Number 1, through traditional assessment. Number 2, through authentic assessment. And of course, when the authenticity of student learning. So in traditional assessment assess student knowledge and skills in relative isolation from real-world context. So traditional assessment practices reflect what students are able to recall from memory through various means such as multiple choice, true or false, fill in the blank, and matching questions. In authentic assessment, assess students' ability to use what they've learning in tasks similar to those in the outside world. Of course, when the authenticity of students' learning has been observed, it requires information from a variety of sources such as content, work samples, observation during class activities, and conferences with students. So in classroom assessment, there are types of classroom assessment. First, the informal assessment. So informal assessment teaches spontaneous day-to-day observations of student performance. For example, verbal and verbal asking questions, listening to student discussions, and then conducting student conferences. So in nonverbal, observing task performances, on-hand, off-task behavior, student choices, student body language. So in informal assessment strength facilitates responsive teaching, can be done during teaching, and easy to individualize. The weaknesses of nonverbal is requires high level of teacher skill. It is vulnerable to and bias and inequities and mistakes. So in classroom assessment, informal assessment. So next in classroom assessment is formal assessment. In formal assessment, assessment that is planned in advance and used to assess a predetermined content and skill domain. The strength is allows the teacher to evaluate all students systematically on the important skills and concepts. Helps teachers determine how well students are progressing over the entire year and provides useful information to parents and administrators. So, example for today's is portfolios. Portfolios is a collection of student samples representing on demonstrating student academic growth. It can include formative and summative assessment. It may contain written work, journals, maps, charts, surveys, group reports, peer reviews, and other such items. Portfolios are systematic, purposeful, and meaningful collections of students' work in one or more subject areas. So, the importance of portfolios for students, it shows growth over time. It displays students' accomplishment. It helps students make choices, and it encourages them to take responsibility for their work and demonstrates how students think. So the importance of portfolios for teachers. It highlights performance based on activities over year and provides a framework for organizing students' work, encourages collaboration with students, parents, and teachers. It showcases an ongoing curriculum. It facilitates for student information for decision making. So in parents, portfolios can help offer insight into what their children do in school. It facilitates communication between home and school. It gives the parents an opportunity to react to what their child is doing in school and to their development. It shows parents how to make a portfolio so they may do one at home at the same time. For administrators, portfolios can provide evidence that teacher or school goals are being met, and it shows growth of students and teachers, and it provides data from various sources. So what do portfolios contain? There are three basic models. Portfolios contain the following. It showcase model consisting of work samples chosen by the students. Then, it is descriptive model consisting of representative work of the student with no attempt of evaluation. Then, evaluative model consisting of representative products that have been evaluated by criteria. So, if there is advantages, there is also disadvantages in portfolio. First, the disadvantages of portfolio are the following. It requires more time for faculty to evaluate than test or sample assessment. It requires students to compile their own work, usually outside of class. Then, it do not easily demonstrate lower level thinking such as recall of knowledge and may threaten students who limit their learnings to cramming for doing it at the last minute. Next, the rubric. It is a scoring guide that seeks to evaluate a student performance based on the sum of a full range of criteria rather than a single numerical score. It is a working guide for students and teachers, usually handed out before the assessment begins in order to get students to think about the criteria on which their work will be judged. So in rubrics are scoring criteria for free response questions, scientific reports, oral or PowerPoint presentations, reflections or journal, essay, laboratory-based performance test, article review or actions, portfolios, and many others. Open-ended question during a storm. Wendy noticed that she always heard thunder about shortly shows the flash of lightning. So, let's proceed to concept mapping. It requires students to explore links between two or more related concepts when making concept maps. They clarify in their minds the links they have made in the concepts and having visual representation to these links. They are better able to rearrange or form new links when new concepts are introduced. So in laboratory performance, in this format, students and teachers know the requirements in advance and prepare them. The teacher judges the student performance within a specific time, frame, and setting. Students are rated on appropriate and effective use of laboratory equipment, measuring tools, and safety laboratory procedures as well as hands-on designing of an investigation. So in inventories is a diagnostic in diagnostic inventories, student responses to a series of questions or statements in any field, either verbally or in writing. These responses may indicate an ability or interest in a particular field. So interest inventories is student responses to questions designed to find out past experience and current interest in topic, subject, or activity. So next is presentation. A presentation by one student or by a group of students to demonstrate the skills used in completion of an activity or the acquisition of curricular outcomes or expectations. The presentation can take the form of a skit, lecture, lab presentation, debate, and so on. So computers can also be used for presentation when using such software as HyperStudio or PowerPoint or Corel presentation. So in peer evaluation is a judgment by students about one another's performance relative to stated criteria and program outcomes. So next is journal assessment. In journal assessment, this refers to a student ongoing record of expressions, experiences, and reflections on a given topic. There are two types. One in which students write with minimal direction what he or she is thinking and or feeling, and the other requires students to complete a specific written assignment and establishes restrictions and guidelines necessary to accomplish the assignment. Journals can involve different types of reflecting writing, drawing, painting, and role-playing. So reflective journal, in reflective journal, the journal of what did I learn, how do I feel about it, and what happened. And synthesis journal, how I can use it and what I learned and what I did. So it's speculation about effects journal. In speculation and about effects journal, what could happen because of this and what happened. Next is summary. A fair assessment is one in which students are given equitable opportunities to demonstrate what they know and can do. Classroom assessment is not only for grading or ranking purposes. Its goal is to inform instruction by providing teachers with information to help them make good educational decisions. So assessment is integrated with students' day-to-day learning experiences rather than a series of an end of course test. Why link assessment with instruction? Better assessment means better teaching, and better teaching means better learning. So better learning means better students, and better students mean better opportunities for a better life. Then that's all for about assessment of learning, and thank you for listening. Have a nice day ahead.